It's Stasha Erickson. I hope you're all doing well today. Well, it is the 6th of March of 2019, and I am here today to bring a video that was actually requested by some of you in the comments of my most recent YouTube video where I was talking about faith healing. Now, there's basically the last video I made, I was talking about witchcraft and spells versus prayer and the power of prayer and intention versus using ingredients and incantations to make things happen for your life. Now, one of the things I was mentioning is that you can pray for people and you can miraculously heal them. And then there's people out there that are actually called faith healers that have a very strange approach to healing, where they will actually place their hands upon somebody's head and say, oh, you are healed. I have exorcised the demons out of your head. But there's really no steps or prayer or true things leading up behind these people that are faith healers. They're basically kind of putting on a performance. So because I mentioned that briefly, someone came in the comments and said, have you heard about John of God from Brazil? He is a faith healer that was recently in a lot of trouble. And I had heard of John of God before, but I didn't realize he was actually Brazilian. I didn't know that's where he came from. And so I had to do a little research to find out more about this John of God guy and what he had done. And I just have to share with you guys a few articles that I landed on because this is just insane. Also, if you can hear, I don't know if you can hear beats in the background. My son is a producer. He produces hip hop and rap music. So he's up recording beats right now. So you may hear a little background music if you're wondering what that is. Okay, so first article I landed on was from December 16th of 2018. And it said, Brazil faith healer John of God surrenders to police. And this was from the BBC News. So it said, a Brazilian faith healer accused of sexually abusing more than 300 women has handed himself into police, local media report. João Teixeira de Faria, known as John of God, was declared a fugitive on Saturday after missing a deadline to surrender to the authorities. The cascade of claims against him began earlier in December when a dozen women said the self-styled spiritual healer had abused them at his clinic. Mr. Faria denies the allegations. The medium is based in the central town of Abadiânia, west of the capital, Brasilia, but has followers worldwide. Now, how did the surrender play out? Brazil's O Globo newspaper reports that the medium withdrew 35 million reals from several bank accounts on Wednesday, convincing authorities that he could be planning to flee Brazil or hide the money in case of future compensation claims. Authorities responded with an arrest warrant on Friday. On Sunday, mobile phone footage broadcast on Brazil's Globo TV showed Mr. Faria looking weary, getting out of a car and surrendering to police on a dirt road in Abadiânia. He was transported to police headquarters in Goiânia, the capital of Goiás state. Now, the medium can be heard on video saying that when he heard the abuse allegations, I surrendered to divine justice, and as promised, I now place myself in the hands of earthly justice. His lawyer, Alberto Torone, said he would file an appeal on Monday. He said he hoped Mr. Faria might be held under house arrest instead of in prison. Now, how did the allegations start? Last week, a Dutch photographer, Zahira Liniki Maus, told Globo TV that Mr. Faria had manipulated her into performing sex acts and then raped her. 9 Brazilian women who remained anonymous also told the channel that the medium abused them on the premise of transferring his cleansing energy. So first of all, the guy is calling himself a medium, and a medium and a healer are two completely different things. A medium is someone that channels entities, that receives visions, messages, can hear things that other people can't see, or somebody that works between the living and the dead to help them communicate. So he's definitely not a medium. A healer is also debatable as well, because from what I'm reading so far here, that whatever healing he has or whatever training he has, I don't know if he actually even has any, He's just doing these kind of, bells and whistles, faith healing approaches to things. Now, on top of that, he has some type of crazy clinic and commune where he is taking and abusing women and raping them, claiming that this is him channeling his energy, his divine energy into them. So this is just red flag upon red flag upon red flag. And this is why I told you guys, be really careful of anyone that calls himself a faith healer, or anyone that claims they can instantly heal you by the touch of their hand, or calls in spirits to do all these things. Now, O Globo newspaper said that it has spoken said it had spoken to 2 or more women with similar allegations. So we're at like 11 women already so far. The 76, he's 76 years old, this guy. The 76-year-old representative said he vehemently rejects allegations of any improper practice during his treatments. Mr. Faria, who is not a medical doctor, has been fined and jailed for operating without a license. U.S. TV host Oprah Winfrey traveled to Brazil in 2013 to meet him and witnessed him performing his so-called psychic surgery at his clinic. Wow. Okay, according to ABC News, Mr. Faria claims that the spirits of more than 30 doctors and other entities can enter his body and that they perform the healings. So I don't even know. This guy is all over the place. He's saying he's a doctor, but he's not a doctor. He's a psychic surgeon, but he's a medium. Spirits, up to 30 or more spirits. I think what he means by the spirits of more than 30 doctors can enter his body means that these are doctors that have lived and already died, and he channels them. Maybe this is his medium side. He channels deceased doctors to come into him to heal people. This is just crazy. I cannot believe that people like this exist and that people have faith in people like this. This is why I'm always saying, people ask me, well, how do you heal people? I remove curses from people. I do spiritual healings for people. How do I do it? I'm very transparent. That's why I have so many educational videos on my channel. I simply use prayer. I have theological training. I have also energy work training. So I use a combination of knowing what energy centers are, knowing what your aura is, knowing what your chakra system is, being a spiritual person just in my soul, and then also having the theological training, which has all the prayer-based training for deliverance prayers. And basically, I had the same training that an exorcist would have. I had to learn all of the same deliverance prayers that come out of the Vatican, as well as the Ruqyah prayers, which are for people who believe in Islam or a Muslim. And there's a ton of other ones as well, into Hindu and other cultures that I was trained in as well. So I do have a background. This guy doesn't have a background. I'm just trying to say to people that if they're going to people for help, and you come to someone for help, you need to understand their background. You need to understand their approach. And this is why when I do spiritual healings or remove curses for people, I only use prayer. And that is really all you need. You don't need bells and whistles. You don't need spirits to come into you. You don't need psychic surgery. And you certainly don't need to have rape people to heal them either. This is just crazy. And apparently this guy had a lot of followers. And who was hanging out with him? Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is known to be extremely dodgy and have a lot of connections to, let's just say, inappropriate things. So I wanted to dive a little deeper here. Let's see. Into what kind of happened after this. So about a month later, there was a guy who went and met João, or João is the Brazilian or Portuguese version of John, met João or John to see what he was all about. And let's see here. This article is by Laura Premack. Oh, I'm sorry. No, there's a woman, Laura Premack. Now, on January 4th, 2019, she said, John of God, my encounter with Brazil's accused faith healer, encounters with the entity. His eyes were very big and very blue, the color of cornflowers. They were neither kind nor unkind, and he seemed somehow apart from the rest of his puffy face and saggy body. He looked into my eyes, and when I did not look away, he looked deeper and said, so quickly I nearly missed it, Volta na tarde, which means come back this afternoon. I felt special. I had watched the people ahead of me in line approach and be sent away with scribbled prescriptions for Passiflora, which is an herbal medication. Well, so he's writing prescriptions as well. This is just crazy. My children's father actually, we divorced when I was very young, like 21. He's been remarried to a woman from Brazil, and my children were actually just down in Brazil prior to coming to Norway. And they told me it was like basically like lawlessness down there, that there's like no speed limit. People can drive as much as they want. They can go as fast as they want. The cops are pretty much nowhere to be found. It's just like anything goes lawlessness. So I think this is probably why the only place this guy could get away with doing this type of thing and having clinics like this is in a place like Brazil that isn't so strict when it comes to laws and regulations. So the woman continues. After she sees him writing out prescriptions, she says, I returned after lunch and I watched him scrape a man's eyeball with a scalpel, and then I fainted. Okay, so now he's using scalpels on people in their eyeballs, which there's no reason for that to ever happen. What is going on here? Okay. When I came to the soft voiced people, oh, she literally fainted. So she said she literally fainted when she saw him scraping an eyeball with a scalpel. When I came to, the soft voiced people looking after me told me I'd had a spiritual surgery. Oh no. So while she was sleeping, they did spiritual surgery on her. They took my money to buy me my own course of passion flower pills and then sent me back to my guest house to rest. I can't help but wonder, what if I hadn't fainted? What if I'd passed in front of him again? And what if he'd invited me for a private consultation? And what if I had said yes? Then you can see this big display he has with these huge crystals that he sells to people. And he's got a sign on them that says, all the crystals are blessed by the entities. Me Too catches up with João de Deus. João de Deus, or John of God, is the most famous medium in Brazil. He inherited his title from his mentor, the beloved philanthropist Chico Xavier, and garnered attention from dozens of celebrities and politicians, including Oprah Winfrey. Now, I wonder who the politicians were that are connected to him. That would be very interesting information to find out. Over the past 4 weeks, more than 600 women have accused John of God of sexual assault. Okay, I thought it was just a dozen. Now it's 600. Their ages at the time of alleged assaults, which took place from the 1980s through October 2018, range in ages from 9 to 67 years old. Ugh. This stuff is so hard. I'm in psychology right now too, and one of the things we're learning about is in abnormal psychology is about pedophilia. And it just, as much as I am here to help human beings, there's certain things that I just don't understand. I know some people have been abused in their childhood and that leads them to certain acts when they're older, but stuff like pedophilia, I mean, there's just no excuse for it. It's disgusting. It just makes me so angry. Maybe that's because I'm a mother and was a very young mother. I'm a little more emotional about it, but I mean, pretty much anybody with a good common sense would be extremely emotional about such a thing. So he's been doing this since the 1980s without ever being caught. And now the people that he is abusing range from the ages of 9 years old to 67. Where were their parents? How did this happen? Now, although John of God has denied the allegations, all recount him inviting them for private consultations, turning them to face away from him, and then performing sexual acts on them as part of their cure. It almost makes me want to cry. Presently, Teixeira is being investigated for rape, sexual violation through fraud, and illegal possession of arms. So far, he has been charged with 2 counts of rape and 2 counts of statutory rape. But that's it. Only been 2 charges of rape and 2 charges of statutory rape. I think a lot of this has to do with it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, where people start believing their abuser and start sympathizing for their abuser. And who knows what this guy says to them. He could probably be instilling fear upon them. If you turn your back on me, or if you don't believe me, the entities will come get you, or whatever, or anything you were healed from will come back to you. Or who knows what level of manipulation he's actually using to be able to carry this out over such a long period of time. He must have many, many people that cover up for him and look the other way as well. Otherwise, this would have been exposed a long time ago. You guys probably heard the beats now, huh? My son is a very good producer. He's self-taught. He's amazing. Someday you will hear his music. Okay, now, however, Here we go. In past encounters with the international press, he was treated as a unique New Age healer, something encouraged by his team of savvy advisors. And that's the other thing I don't like too. I have a lot of people that jump on here and tell me that I'm New Age or I'm a New Age healer and stuff like that. And that's not the case at all. I don't think anybody really realizes that I've been through 4 years of theological training at a university level, which means reading the Bible back to front multiple times in multiple versions, learning every world religion, reading all religious texts. It's not like I just learned stuff online and went out and said I could start healing people. There's so much that goes into the power of prayer and the history of, exorcism, deliverance, all of these things, that if some guy just jumps out there and says, I'm this or that, that's more New Age than anything. If he has no training, he's not a doctor, he's never had any type of healing courses, energy work training, theological training, I just don't understand how he's manipulated so many people for so long. It just baffles my mind. All right, I'll continue. However, despite this international reputation, Texeria actually inhabits a very central, even ordinary place in the Brazilian religious landscape, shaped over centuries by Afro-Brazilian, indigenous European, and more recently North American currents. He is a spiritual surgeon, a role at the intersection of folk Catholicism and Brazilian Spiritism. I mean, he's just kind of making up whatever he wants here. It's crazy. Now, his John of God's spiritual hospital in the small town of Abadiânia, halfway between the cities of Brasília and Goiânia, is called the Casa de Dom Inácio de Loyola, after Saint Ignatius, who founded the Jesuits. Oh no. One of the 37 spirits Texeria claims to incorporate into his body during trances. Okay, well, the Jesuits are no one to be celebrating if you've done any research about them. And yeah, Saint Ignatius apparently is one of the 37 spirit that comes into him to heal people. I mean, it's pretty sad that he can't say that he's strong enough on his own, that he has to, this is just more fuel for the fire, that he literally has to have spirits and dead people enter into him in order to do his work. So that means he isn't trained, he isn't powerful enough on his own, he needs all this outside help. And most likely this is all BS as well. Now, a benefactor secured land for him in 1979, and the small town of 19,000 people now receive 10,000 visitors a month, most of them foreigners from all over the world, most of them people who most likely saw Oprah going there. Media controls the mind. Now, the John of God economy here is extensive. There are the bottles of blessed water, the passion flower pills, the guided tours, the pousadas to house visitors, the cafes to feed them, the shops selling the requisite white clothes, the mineral and jewelry shops, and the book shops selling videos, biographies, photographs, crystals, and icons. Now, some of these things can be great. Holy water is great. Crystals and minerals are definitely proven to heal and to absorb negative energies, everything like that. But he's just twisting everything to make this strange conglomeration of what he considers to be spiritual healing. Then he has money he receives from his regular international tours. As a result, many people make their living off of the work of John of God. Oh man, all right. So I'll just wrap this up. This is just blowing my mind, but I just wanted you guys, if you've never heard about him, to understand the backstory and what led up to his now conviction. Thank God he's been caught now, but just the fact that this has gone on since the 80s and over 600 women, including children, have been affected by this. Oh, I just can't believe how many people looked the other way and how unfair that is for a lot of these people. Now that Brazil has sworn in a president who campaigned on his support for Brazilian evangelicals and the slogan, God above everyone, there's the temptation to connect the crowning of Bolsonaro with the fall of John of God. It is possible to find an intersection between the John of God economy and Brazilian evangelicalism. While evangelicals are firmly against spiritual power that comes from anywhere other than Jesus or his Holy Spirit, they do share John of God's evident comfort with the symbolic relationship between wealth and faith. But the same could be said for all the major religions shaping Brazil. Whether in Catholic traditions of paying for funeral masses, of Afro-Brazilian customs, of cooking extravagant feasts for the gods, money and faith have historically sat side by side. The real story here has nothing to do with Bolsonaro or evangelicals. And it is not about just another sex-crazed cult leader either. It is an older and more universal one, with as many similarities to the Catholic Church as to any cult. The story of the exploitation of women of faith by a man enabled by a large network of people dependent on him for money and for power. The women John of God is alleged to have assaulted were not uniquely gullible nor vulnerable. Most of them believed he could help them, but their belief does not make them outliers. Healing through contact with the spirit world is a mainstream position in Brazil. Even the skeptical, like me, can be lulled into credulity by the John of God machine. They tell you to be open, to allow the entity to read your energy and recognize what you need. Even if you think it's nonsense, there still may be a part of you that says, what if? Imagine hearing a ghost story laid on a moonless night in a candlelit cabin with creaky floors. It's that frame of mind. I can imagine that even if I'd been invited for a one-on-one consultation, I would have accepted, even suspecting the whole thing was a hoax. What's the worst that could happen? She said at the end of the article. Well, apparently we hear what the worst that could happen is. Oh, I just can't believe it. I mean, this type of stuff just baffles my mind. You know, there's certainly pastors and ministers and people out there that abuse their power. We all know what has happened in the Catholic Church with priests and even nuns. I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but another really hush-hush untold story is that nuns themselves within the Catholic Church were often raped and abused by priests. And because the priests were not allowed to carry out their sexual desires, they would carry them out on the nuns. And I mean, this is just another secret. There's a series on Netflix right now called The Keepers that talks a lot about this. It's a documentary. So there's been a lot of perversion within different religious sects and different cults and stuff like this, but faith healers kind of go into this very strange little category where people don't realize how dangerous and how manipulative they can truly be. Now, I'm not saying every faith healer is like this, but this is just another example to show you guys that, yes, you can try new age things and put bells and whistles on stuff, but the old ways of prayer and spirituality and the foundations that started everything that we know today really need to be given more credit and really need to be looked at more closely and really need to be celebrated and practiced more in these strange combinations of channeling entities and doing psychic surgery and all this stuff. I just say simplicity is the key. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I'm going to heal someone, I just pray for them. Each and every person has the power of prayer as long as you believe and you have the intention and the faith behind. You have your will, your intention, your faith, and your intentions are good and just to help another, then you can help anybody just based on that. And that's truly all I do to help others. You can do the same thing. So do not fall prey to scammers like this. There's so much more about John of God. I actually picked up like 10 different articles, but I'm already at 20 minutes. I don't want to bore you guys. But do some more research. There's a lot more detailed stuff out there. Some of it's really uncomfortable and hard to read. But just educate yourself. Understand the difference of like the old ways and these very strange, twisted New Age approaches to things. Okay, guys, that is all for today's video. Before I go, actually, every spring I harvest a bunch of seeds, of organic, non-GMO seeds. I've had organic gardens my whole life, from America to Ireland to Norway, and every time I have an organic garden, I always collect and cultivate all the seeds that I'm planting. And when you cultivate your own seeds, they're non-GMO, they're organic, and they will continue to give life over and over and reflower. Whereas new seeds are like GMO regulated, they don't reflower. You have to keep planting seed to keep growing. And just plants have changed. So I have just done a huge harvest and collection of a bunch of seeds. I have them in my Etsy store right now. Now that it's springtime, it's a really good time to start planting your garden. People really need to grow their own food, and you need to be more in control of what you take in your body, and just learning how to do basic things like growing food is very important for people. We never know what the future could hold, and we need to know these basic life skills in order to help ourselves survive. So I've got a link in the description box below for my Etsy store. I've got California white sage, I've got California poppies, I've got morning glories, I've got lots of fruits and vegetables. You can find everything on page 1 and 2 of my Etsy store. There's a new coupon that will go for the entire month of March, and that is the word spring. Just type spring into the coupon code section on the way out, and you'll receive 25% off of any order that you place in my shop for this entire month. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this educational video, and I will be back with more very soon. In fact, I already know what my next video is going to be. It's going to be something to do with CERN, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. So I'll be back with more, possibly on Friday. Okay, sending you guys love and peace from Norway. It is snowing like crazy out here, so I'm going to go out and build me a snowman. Okay, bye-bye.